now, the State of the Nation conversation begins right now. Remember, you can be part of this discussion. You can talk to us on all of our social media platforms. We invite your comment and feedback on this particular program because this is the discussion that concerns you, dear Kenyans. So talk to us, send in your views, comment, and we'll be sure to sample them at the tail end of our bulletin. And of course, to help us unpack this, a very troublesome discussion at this particular moment, we're talking about the state of the nation. And remember, a lot is happening in the country. We have the doctor strike, we have the issue of fake fertilizer, the increased number of road accidents every single day. The statistics is troublesome. This is the state of the nation. And of course, to help me unpack this discussion, let me usher in Kennedy Sankara. This is a youth policy analyst and advocate. Asante sana, Sankara, for making time.
Thank you, Evans, for having me here.
All right.
It's been a journey. I was just coming from Kisumu and I'm landing in the city and boom, I'm here with you.
All right.
But anyway, I don't regret.
Okay.
It's worth it.
All right. Well, plain and simple, how will you describe the state of the nation today?
Well, Kenya is in the state of shambles. Where do I get the audacity to recognize my beautiful country as a progressive country when we're having too much for one basket? Doctors striking for over 22 days, for the president to come and speak only to say they have no money, telling us now we should be living within our limits. I don't know when we started living beyond our limits. We're having insecurity. While the DP is praising security situation, he is like alerting Al-Shabaab to be doing their daily theatrics. You saw what they did today, where 2 guys were lost on the road on a suspected Al-Shabaab attack. We also have at hand matters to do with unfolding of political parties, going back to one-party state, and a lot of things in the same basket. It doesn't qualify for a progressive nation. It only qualifies to equate my country to be in the state of shambles, state of confusion.
All right, and let's begin by the doctor strike, just the way you have mentioned. Today marks the 26th day since doctors down their tools. The state of healthcare continue to crumble, and of course doctors, or rather patients, some being forced to actually, live by the faith of the most merciful God. And this has actually crippled a lot of, healthcare in many health facilities in the country. Recently, in Nyeri, Tai Kahiga, that is the governor of, the governor of Nyeri County actually came out clean and said that doctors should actually, go back to work or risk sacking. Well, the doctor remain adamant and they hold the stand that they will not, head back to work unless their demands are hid. Well, we are looking at a state where the doctor hold a very firm stand. At the same time, the government still maintains that they don't have money, and the situation continue to escalate every passing day. Do you think we'll ever get a solution into this, some sort of conundrum state of affairs that we find ourselves in as a country, as far as healthcare is concerned?
I don't know what Mutai Kaiga has in his bandwagon scored in school. Doctors are elites. These are people who took their time in school. They scored A's and above. They went to school for over 5 years, 6 years some. I don't think it is imperative. It is realistic to force them to go back to work with threats of sacking. How many doctors will they sack? How progressive will that be? Is that amicable solution? Is that a sustainable approach that we are going to use? Gone are the days when people would be threatened to do things against their will. For your information, Evans, allow me tell you that doctors are not even striking. In my own opinion, as a patriotic citizen, the government has decided to strike only to call out doctors to strengthen their demonstrations. What doctors are doing, they are currently participating in what we call industrial action. Industrial action is an employment right that every employee has to seek or battle their living with the employer. Kenya is a statutory member of international and regional agreements where these are anchored locally, regionally, and internationally. So it is mind-boggling to threaten doctors with strikes. What doctors are asking for is too little. By the way, the money that the government wants to pay doctors is what politicians pay for prostitutes for one night stand, if I may be vulgar a bit. That money politicians pay prostitutes for one night. And that money cannot fuel a car. That money cannot pay rent.
For the purpose of
buy food.
Sorry to cut you short, but for the purpose of decorum, I think it's a bit fair to mind our language. Remember, this is a national television, and at always we should just maintain decorum.
Well, let me just put it in a better way, that the money that government is willing to pay doctors is what somehow prostitutes are paid for a night. These are people who remove tumors in our brains. These are people who do or perform very sensitive surgical operations. These are people who deliver babies. It is not really good that we are going to press them with little money while we've increased the cost of living. You know, the problem is not even doctors striking. Remember, these people issued notices, Evans. But guess what was happening? While doctors issued legitimate notices of strike, instead of government counteracting these notices in good time, the president and his government were busy talking about affordable housing. You may think that Kenyans were sleeping on the trees. So it is prioritization of government agenda. People are telling you we are coming to strike. Instead of you saying, no, we can't afford to go for strike at this particular point in time. We really need medical services. Kenyans must be attended to.
Fair enough.
What
fair
is
enough.
The problem?
Let me bring you back to let's be a bit of practical. Well, the government says that they don't have money to pay doctors at this particular time. Well, the doctors maintain that strike must go on unless the government meets their demand. However, this comes at a backdrop of a court order. And it seems like the government and, of course, the striking doctors have actually, overlooked the court order. What does it say about our society? We have a court order there. Then both parties seems to be ignoring the court orders that is very clear. So what does it tell about, our respect to rule of law, in as much as we talk about the doctor strike and, of course, each side pulling in opposite direction?
Remember, the CBA, the enactment of the 2017 collective bargaining agreement, had even sought a court intervention where the court directed the government to implement the CBA. It will not be fair enough to only see doctors' disregard of the court orders when it comes to the time of implementation. Okay. The first violator of court orders is the government. The government has refused to implement the CBA. Had they implemented the CBA, we will not be speaking of this today. But again, put yourself in this situation. You are the aggrieved, then the person committing the atrocities upon you is reminding you on the sovereignty of the people, of the Constitution, and the supremacy of the Constitution and the rule of law, while the same people are leading by violating it. I think the doctor strike would have been handled. The only problem we have here is ignorance coupled with arrogance and maybe lack of information by people who are bestowed with the responsibility to oversee a smooth running of a functional healthcare system in a country like Kenya.
Pretty quick, even as we wind up on this, the doctor strike conversation, do you see an end to this?
With the strong stance taken by doctors, I don't see an end because both sides are holding their opinion. In physics, we are told that like forces repel and like forces attract. When doctors maintain we will not go, government tells them that, you know what, we have guns and the police, you have to vacate the streets. The strikes are no longer constitutional. We are headed a very dangerous trajectory, and that may not be a solution for the people of Kenya. We can sit and dialogue with decorum, with respect, and with a listening ear. When I have a bone of contention with you, the only imperative thing you can do is to bring your side reasonably. I bring my side reasonably. Remember, doctors are in the middle of a strike, then the government comes with a circular from the SRC claiming the reduction of already existing payments. Remember, these payments were not achieved by mere talk. They were processes of collective bargaining agreement. So you cannot undermine what other CBS has achieved, yet you've been defeated to achieve what you are supposed to do. It is unfair. Let us just employ the essence of pragmatism and patriotism. That is what is lacking. Let doctors feel the pain, but the doctors are feeling the pain already. This economy is actually pinching everyone. So you can't keep a doctor in the hospital and you're not giving him what can sustain him. These doctors are borrowing as if they don't have salary. These people need to be protected. If doctors decide to go back to work against their will and they decide to do something funny, how many Kenyans are going to die in the hospitals? Because the government is saying you have to work now. You can't force a medic to work against their will. An angry doctor is a dangerous animal and a dangerous human being for human survival. But we must help people love their work.
But don't you think the government has a point when it says that for now we don't have the money? Yes, we appreciate the valuable work and the noble work that you do as doctors, but for now, bear with us. We don't have the money. Do you think the government has a point?
Nobility of work. Remember, Evans, Kimani Ichung'wah, the majority leader, has been boasting of how stable the economy is in their endless UDA rallies in Mount Kenya. He only came to realize that the economy is not economizing when it comes to doctors' pay or CBA enactment. Number two, this government has been living beyond their means. They are putting on watches worth 10 million, shoes worth 250,000. People are putting millionaire watches while you want to tell us that we live within our means. Can I go back to record and see what President William Ruto has spent in the last few months he has been in office since he took over? Domestic travel alone, the president has consumed over 3 billion. Is it traveling on a horse race or what? So you can't, let us walk the talk. Okay. Let the president and his team lead by example. Show that statesmanship that indeed you need to live within your means. Right. You don't overborrow, you don't spend recklessly. Then when it comes to payment, you tell people to live within their means. There is no one who is living on any other person's bill. All
right. Now let's switch gears now to another very troublesome, discussion and topic. I'm talking about the fake fertilizer. Well, in this one, Agriculture CS Mithika Linturi says that there is no fake fertilizer in supply. We only have substandard fertilizer. Deputy President, on the other hand, says, yes, indeed, we have about 50,000 bags of fake fertilizers that were supplied to the National Cereals and Produce Board. Well, when you look at two government officials giving very conflicting details in regard to this fake fertilizer scandal, well, this begs the question, who is fooling who and who should we believe?
Well, when two senior government officials speak in two different or opposite directions, that is a danger alert that this government doesn't speak from the one from one quarter, because if they've been speaking from one quarter, these are people who receive intelligence from the National Intelligence Service. They have all their mechanisms of getting information. If at all these people are communicating as a government, then we would not be speaking of what we are speaking of today. But again, I had a thought of the so-called fake fertilizer. The CS cannot claim that we have no fake fertilizers, but we have substandard fertilizer. What is the essence of producing a substandard commodity for public consumption? It is tantamount to economic sabotage, and those people should be held accountable legally, not verbally. Because in most instances, I've seen the president prosecuting cases and making decisions where cartels have robbed Kenyans. He says so and so to compensate farmers. In what capacity? A cartel is a cartel, should be arrested and prosecuted. That is the only legal justice for framework that we understand. Back to my assumption. What if President William Ruto, and I want to give you a clear example. Since Kenya got independence, William Ruto is the only president who is available everywhere. He rears egg-laying chicken. He has, how do we call them? These cows that are kept for meat. He has the cows there. He also has a dairy farm. He does timber and everything. So, and he does maize production. So when we go to the market, you find the president's commodities are also in the market. Well, he has the right. But
do you actually have proof on that? Because that is assumption, and we'll treat it as your own opinion.
The president has said over and over that he was selling chicken.
Mm-hmm.
These are not my words.
Okay.
I've seen videos where the president has gone around showing his poultry farm. I'm not talking of rumors. So, well, that was just an analogy. Now let me ask this. What if this fake fertilizer is a deliberate economic sabotage to obstruct the crop growth cycle in Kenya, to give avenues for cartels to find a justification to import maize in the guise of having disrupted crop growth cycle, thus insufficient maize in the national cereals store to feed the population. So I see this from a Sankara point of view as a deliberate economic sabotage, an opportunity for cartels to continue milking the country dry.
Okay.
Because tomorrow they will wake up and tell you that we have insufficient maize, and within 1 week, the ship will be at the coast. You will ask yourself, all of us went to school, or some of us went through schools. The nautical miles it takes a ship to dock from Brazil, it is not an overnight journey that you wake up and you achieve. So by the time some of these things are happening, a lot of questions linger into the minds of patriotic and bothered citizens of the Republic of Kenya on what really transpires.
Sorry to cut you short.
We should not be discussing the CS. Sorry, Evans.
Mm-hmm.
We should not be discussing the CS and the fake fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
We should be discussing who is going to take over the Ministry of Agriculture. Remember, we have very critical ministries that are doing pathetically in this current regime.
All right.
The Ministry of Agriculture, which is the backbone of our economy. We should fire Linturi.
Fair question, and of course you have actually brought a point that many Kenyans feel like some CS should actually be sent packing. One of them in particular, we have the likes of Health CS Susan Nahumicha. Well, do you think maybe these CSs have let Kenyans down in their respective ministry?
A government never expires. When you take over government, it is not your responsibility to complain on the failures of the previous regimes. As a patriotic leader, yours is to right the wrongs. Yours is to better the worst in that ministry, and not to keep on blaming the successive regimes. Remember, Murkomen is telling us that he's dealing with the pillage of inconsistencies in his ministry since independence. So Murkomen is the only one who has served the Ministry of Transport, and is the only one seeing for the first time that ministry is headed the wrong direction, not knowing that the people like the late CS Minister Michuki did the best but were never mowing on TV. Murkomen is ever tweeting while people are dying on the roads daily Today, NTSA gives a disturbing statistic where over 1,000 people have died since January. If you were to do your maths well, you realize we are losing 11 Kenyans daily, Monday to Monday, on these roads. And your CS is telling you that the only problem I'm having is the mileage of inconsistencies in my ministry since we achieved independence. It is okay.
Let's be fair.
A very critical agricultural ministry.
Fair enough. Let's be fair on
there's
Murkomen.
No fertilizer. A fertilizer is brought, he shifts the goalpost, and now talks of how they're going to manufacture. It is okay.
Fine, fair enough. Let's be on that, the issue of the road carnage. Let's be fair on CS Murkomen. Most of the cases, according to the police reports in regard to the number of fatalities on the road, some blame on overspeeding. This is the human error. So I wonder where is CS Murkomen actually involved in this, because this is something that is caused by carelessness of some of our drivers on the road. Don't you think it's a bit unfair if you actually shift the entire blame to Minister of Roads and Transport for this increased number of road carnages?
Let me tell you, Evans, today, if I were to be given the responsibility to serve this country as a CS, and I'm the one in charge, it is very simple. You either deliver or we deliver you out. The CS has the powers to call on every other stakeholder who is constitutionally mandated into providing services to ensure safety and security of Kenyans on transit. Let me tell you, Michuki did it. It wasn't a miracle. Murkomen can do it. Instead of tweeting left, right, and center, speaking of road carnages in Penrose, we really need a functional NTSA, not a financial extortionist organization on the road. We really need a functional traffic police, not a money tax collectors on the road. I personally, one of these buses that just caused accidents recently, I was traveling to Kisumu on Wednesday at night. I came across an Eldoret Express bus. It was in poor state, with passengers on board. A mechanic is lying under the vehicle at night to fix the wheel. The vehicle is overloaded with everything. I took the responsibility to alert the NTSA. They ignored my text. Guess what happened? People lost their lives with the same bus, with the same company bus. Had they taken my concerns seriously, they would have ordered for inspection of all these vehicles, because that one enough was a sign enough to show them that something is wrong. We would have saved lives. So ignorance is also taking shape in these government ministries, and that's why I owe no one an apology for shifting blames to Murkomen. Murkomen has the powers donated to him by the president, who was elected by the people.
Okay. All right. Now, with this, the discussion about the sacking of CS, the 3 CS in question. Of course, the Constitution is clear on the ground for removal of a CS from office. One of them is gross violation of the provision of the Constitution or any other law. Another one talks about where there are serious reason for believing that the cabinet secretary has committed a crime under national or international law, or gross misconduct. When I look at these very key critical areas that actually form the basis of the removal of any sitting CS, then in all the 3 CS I don't see it anywhere. So don't you think maybe this is a very premature discussion?
Well, this conversation, that is relative statement. It depends on which quarter it depends on which quarter is discussing it. Government sympathizers will see it as premature, while citizen service-oriented Kenyans will see it as very mature and over-delayed. They need to be sacked. The essence of being appointed a minister is to help the president deliver on his mandate. So once your ministry is doing pathetically, then what justification do you have to continue earning and enjoying the privileges attached to that office.
All right, because of time, there is another very critical issues that I want us to touch on before we call it a day. I'm talking about now the news that maybe the NC party could soon join UDA party. So what is your take on this, Sankara, and what do you read as far as the political dynamic is concerned?
As a former national youth leader ANC, allow me to tell Kenyans that I refused to be sold like a groundnut. What Musalia Mudavadi is doing currently is selling the people of ANC like a groundnut in some small polythene bag. We don't deserve that. And that's why I left ANC. I saw it coming. ANC is not being folded today. ANC was folded on 23rd of January 2022 at the Bomas of Kenya, when I addressed a closed-door meeting which brought together what we call the birth of Kenya Kwanza. Number two, ANC is not a party. ANC is a village cocoon where people want to drive party agenda with a village mindset. All said and done, the repeal of Section 2A of the Independence Constitution was a significant constitutional and democratic progress in our nation. The attempt by Kenya Kwanza, amorphous coalition, because it is not registered as a coalition of political parties. The attempt by the UDA administration to take Kenya to a one-party state shall fail miserably. Maybe for parties like ANC, where the party leader is the party member and everything in the party, we may succeed. But for progressive political parties, no. I want to urge the people of Kenya to firmly stand strong against attempts by President William Ruto's administration to take Kenya back into a one-party state. It is not in good interest, it is not in good faith for growth and democracy of this country. If Kenya Kwanza won elections as a coalition, how come they can't run a government as a coalition? Now they have to fold the parties to join hands.
Fair enough.
What is the essence?
Fair enough.
Let them work the way they started the work. We will not allow going back to one-party state.
Thank you. Well, we have to, call it a day. Thank you so much, Kennedy Sankara, a youth policy analyst and advocate, for your time. Your time is all appreciated, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Evans, for having me here. Though the time is limited, but we have a lot to discuss. Just as I conclude, allow me to say, my country, I'm crying and bleeding for my country, because I'm in a country where politicians are spending and earning more than even professionals. They can sit and decide to add their salaries when they want. But when a professional who has taken his time and studied is going to ask for something that is not too much, they are told to live within their means.
Thank you, Kennedy. Thank you so much. And of course, that is Kennedy Sankara, youth policy analyst and advocate, talking about state of affairs and state of the nation. And of course, it's a very, a hot discussion, if you ask me, in regards to state of the affairs, the things that are happening in the country that concerns you, the ordinary citizen. So that's how we wrap it up. Many thanks for the men and women who made this production a success. And of course for you, our esteemed viewers, for always keeping us a company in the last 1 hour or some minutes. So in between there, thank you so much.